Welcome to the first official video tutorial of LibrePCB. In this video, we will quickly walk through the whole workflow of creating a PCB, starting with downloading the application and ending with placing the PCB order. This should give you a rough idea how to use LibrePCB. But for a more detailed guide, please stay tuned for upcoming tutorial videos. Let's start with downloading and installing LibrePCB. Actually, this depends on your operating system and is generally self-explaining. Just go to the download page on LibrePCB.org and choose your preferred installation method. For example, if you're using Windows, download our installer and install it the usual way. For more information, check out the installation instructions. On this page, you'll also find a quick start tutorial and the user manual in written form. If you need any help with the software, check out the help page on the website. When starting LibrePCB the first time, it asks for creating a workspace. This is just a directory where all your part libraries, settings, and optionally projects will be stored. Just choose the location where to create the workspace and specify the most important application settings. For example, you may choose the preferred norm for schematic symbols depending on where you're living. Once the workspace is created, the main window shows up. To finish the workspace setup, you should install some part libraries, otherwise you won't have any resistors, capacitors, etc. available in the schematic editor. Just open the library manager and choose the libraries you like to install, or simply all of them. This may take a few seconds. Now you're ready to create a PCB project. Let's say we want to create an LED blinky PCB. We initialize the new project with both a schematic and a board. Note that it is mandatory to draw a schematic before starting with a PCB design. It's not possible to design just a PCB without a schematic. Once the project is created, the board editor and the schematic editor windows show up. As mentioned before, every PCB project starts with drawing the schematic. The editor recommends to add a schematic frame first, so let's do that. The next step is to add all the components we need in the circuit. To make the LED blink, we start with a Schmidt trigger. Either filter the components by category, or use the search function. Please note that the available libraries are still missing various components. If you can't find the component you're looking for, you need to create it by yourself in the integrated library editor. That's not difficult, just check out the quick start tutorial to see how it works. The search results are organized in 3 different levels: the components, the devices with their corresponding package, and the concrete part numbers. Don't worry too much about it, for the moment it's not important to understand it. Let's pick this concrete Schmidt trigger part number by double-clicking it. After placing it in the schematic and finishing the placement with the escape key, the dialog shows up again to pick the next component. Let's add a pin header for the power supply, this time just choosing a component without deciding for a package or part number yet. Then the LED which we want to blink. And finally, let's also add the LibrePCB logo, which we'll place on silkscreen later. Resistors and capacitors can be found in this dialog as well, but they are also available directly from the toolbar. Press the tabulator key to move the focus into the capacitance field and type 100U for 100 microfarad. Or 10K for 10 kilo ohms. Now we placed all components needed for our blinky, so we can create the electrical connections with wires. When attaching a wire to a pin, pay attention to the disappearing circle as this indicates a proper connection has been made. If desired, you may also explicitly specify net names by adding net labels. At the end you should review and fix the issues reported by the electrical rule check. For example, if you forgot to connect a pin, a warning will be shown. Once the schematic is drawn, switch to the board editor window to start designing the PCB. Here you'll find all the components from the schematic which need to be placed on the board. Let's start by adding the Schmidt trigger. Here you may choose the actual package to place, but for the Schmidt trigger we have chosen a concrete part number in the schematic, so the correct package is already selected. This is indicated by the check mark. While the component is attached to the cursor, press the F key to flip it to the bottom board side and rotate it with a right click. Repeat these steps for all the remaining components. Since we did not choose a concrete package in the schematic editor for them, we have to take care of the package selection now. Now we can see the board is too large for our simple circuit, so let's shrink the outline polygon to a reasonable size by dragging its vertices. You may quickly open the 3D viewer to check if the board shape and the component placement looks as expected. Note that not all packages have a 3D model, but this doesn't matter. The next step is to draw the copper traces to connect the pins according the circuit drawn in the schematic, which are indicated by the yellow air wires. Just choose the trace width and layer in the toolbar at the top and click into the board to draw the traces. A right click allows to switch between different routing modes. To add a via, just switch the layer with the page up and page down keys. Let's also add a ground copper plane on the bottom side. The plane is automatically clipped to the board area, so a very rough outline is good enough. Then you may review the result in the 3D viewer again. When you're happy with the layout, you should run the design rule check to see if there are any issues found, for example too small clearances. Fix all the reported problems and run the check again. Once you finish the design, there are two ways how to get the PCB manufactured. The traditional way is to export Gerber files with output jobs and sending them manually to the desired PCB manufacturer or for etching the PCBs at home. The easier way, however, is to order through LibrePCB Fab. With just a few clicks, your design is forwarded to one of our PCB manufacturer partners. Just choose how many PCBs you like to order and you'll immediately see how much it costs. If you're happy with it, enter your shipping address and payment information, and a few days later you'll find the PCBs in your postbox.